Baruchim Habayim. Thank you very much for coming. Today's shir should be for the Refuah Shalema of Raphael Chaim ben Sarah, Eliyahu Eliezer ben Chana, and David ben Miriam. So I heard a nice insight about Eliyahu, so it's connected with last week's parsha. In our Gemarot, we see very often questions which remain unanswered. And more often than not, when we have these questions that are unanswered, they are appended with the word teku. Teku, which the Art Scroll explains, means let it stand. So you have a question that really does not have an answer, it's left with the phrase let it stand. Now, there's a deeper meaning, a deeper understanding of this word teku, because the Rosh Tevot, the initials of teku, spell out Tishbi, Yetaretz, Kushiot, Ubayot, which means Tishbi is Eliyahu Navi, because he's called Eliyahu HaTishbi, and Yetaretz means he will answer Kushiot Ubayot, he will answer all the questions. So it means all these she'elot we have in the Gemara, which remain really open-ended questions, will ultimately be answered when Eliyahu Navi comes, when he heralds Mashiach. May it happen speedily in our day. I normally say at the end of the shir, and I'm saying at the beginning. Maybe he's coming quicker than we know. Tomorrow. Now. B'toch Hashena. So we say that Eliyahu Navi will come and answer these questions. Ultimately, he'll come and he'll say, you remember that question in Baba Batra, Daf Chav Gimel or Aleph? That question, here's the answer. And he'll rattle off the answer. Now that's all very nice, but there's another meaning behind teku. It's related to the word takua. Takua means fixed, like something which is stuck or wedged. They say when you have a peg, if you wedge a 10 peg into the ground, or you wedge a peg into wedge a nail into a table, that's called takua. It's wedged. So teku, takua is the same root. This word teku comes to teach us something, that not only is there a short-term answer, which is the reason this happened, the reason X happened is because of Y, but even deeper than that, the reason X had to come about in the first place before even needing a solution, even that needs to be answered. So Eliyahu Navi will have a twofold job. He won't only bring the short-term answer, the reason why X happened is Y, but he'll also bring why X originally had to come about in the first place. He'll bring the deeper meaning. So not only the answers will be left till Eliyahu Navi's arrival, but even the questions will be left, will be fixed till Eliyahu Navi's arrival. What I'm really trying to say is that we don't even understand the questions. We think when we hear the answer that that's the end of the problem. But what we don't even understand is the question itself. So there were three people. Let's call them an Englishman, Irishman, and a Jew. I have to have a Jew in there because the Jew is the point of the whole story. So these three people are captured by, let's say, the Germans. And the Germans want to execute all three of them. And first of all they come to the Englishman and they say to him, look, we need to kill you, but we don't want it said that we're not compassionate people. So we are going to give you a choice. We're going to let you choose the manner of your death. So of course the Englishman thinks, look, there's many ways to die. Let me pick the most merciful way of death. So he thinks and he thinks and he thinks. He thinks, you know what would be the best way to die? He thinks to himself, if they push me off the edge of a cliff, then my death will be very, very quick. I'll fall for 1, 2, 3 seconds and I'll die instantly. He says, I'd like to die by being pushed off a cliff. Fine. So the Germans take him, push him off the cliff, and he dies instantly. That's it. Then they go to the next man, the Irishman. I don't know why I picked Irishman, because anyway. The Irishman, they said to him, how do you want to die? He thinks and he thinks and he thinks and he says, you know what? I would like to die from a lethal injection, but not when I'm awake, when I'm asleep. Because if I die from a lethal injection when I'm asleep, I won't even feel it. He thinks he's all very clever. Of course, the Germans take him, they give him the lethal injection when he's asleep, and finished, he's dead. And they go to the Jew, look at the Jew and they say, right, you're the last one. How do you want to die? So he looks up at the German officer, he says, old age.
Old age.
Now, what does this have to do with Moshe Rabbeinu? I'll tell you what it has to do with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is commanded in this week's parasha to go to war with Midian, to make a milchama. And Hashem tells him, after you make this milchama, you're going to die. I'm going to take your life. This will be your swan song. This will be the end. So now, what do you think Moshe Rabbeinu will do when he hears that? He'll think, I'm going to die straight after the war? Forget it, we won't start the war straight away. We'll wait another month, wait another year, wait 2 years. Who's in such a hurry to have a war? If it means I'm going to die straight afterwards, no, let's take our time, let's have a big recruitment policy, and then let's choose the weapons, and let's schlep it out, and schlep it out more, and schlep it out more. You think that's how Moshe Rabbeinu reacted? Couldn't be further from the truth. Hashem told him, make the milchama, straight away. He rallied Bnei Israel, and straight away they went to war. Even though he knew that the quicker the war would finish, the quicker would be the end of his life. It's another testimony to Moshe Rabbeinu. But there's something interesting in the way that Moshe Rabbeinu reacts to Hashem's command to go into this war. And we're going to look at the pasuk. Okay. Nekom nikmat b'nei Israel me'et hamidyanim achar te'asef el amecha. That's Hashem's command to Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's what he says. After that, you're going to die. So then Moshe Rabbeinu replied, and he says, "Vayomer Moshe el ha'am leimor heichaltzu me'etchem anashim latzava v'yu al Midyan latet nikmat Adonai b'Midyan." Originally, what Hashem had told Moshe Rabbeinu was slightly different from this. Here it says, well, originally what Hashem said to Moshe was, go to fight with the Midyanim and take vengeance of Bnei Israel. Because what happened with the Midyanim? They came in last week's parasha, they seduced the Bnei Israel, and there was a big magifah, a big plague. Many thousands of Jews died. 24,000 Jews died. Terrible magifah, until Pinchas stopped it, as we mentioned last week. So Hashem said, take revenge for Bnei Israel. Says Moshe Rabbeinu, when he's commanding the Bnei Israel, he says, Nikmat Hashem b'Midyan. Take the vengeance of Hashem. Why did Moshe call it the vengeance of God? Hashem said it was the vengeance of the Jews. Why take God's vengeance? The answer is that Bnei Israel were fully aware that this was going to be the end for Moshe Rabbeinu. They were fully aware that once the battle was finished, their beloved leader would have to depart this world. So they were in no mean hurry, they were in no rush whatsoever to finish this war. They were even less of a hurry than we think Moshe Rabbeinu would be. So they were happy to let the war wait. They were happy maybe not to fight the war with all their kohot. They were happy to take things slowly. Because to be left without a leader, and especially a leader like Moshe Rabbeinu, would be terrible, would be disastrous. So if Moshe Rabbeinu would have said, this is your war, this is for your vengeance, then the Bnei Yisrael said, we don't want this vengeance. We'd rather have you, Moshe Rabbeinu, we'd rather have you. And doesn't matter about the war. Put aside our vengeance. But we'd rather have you. So Moshe Rabbeinu decided to rephrase. And he said, no, this is not about your vengeance. This is about the vengeance of Hashem. Fight this war for Hashem. Make it a Milchemet Hashem, to fight for Hashem's honor. And then Bnei Yisrael had a different motivation now. They weren't fighting now because they were worried about their own honor, their own kavod, their own revenge against the terrible Magifah that destroyed so many of their brethren. They were now fighting for the honor of Hashem. Fighting for Hashem, that's a totally different thing. Hashem's honor is at stake. Let's go to it. This really applies to all of us in our own time and all future times. In other words, and this has just occurred to me now, a Jew should feel that when Hashem's honor is at stake, it is more important than anything in this world. It's more important than even the demise of Moshe Rabbeinu. How many times do we see in our day Hashem's name being pushed down, Hashem's name being desecrated? Things which happen in this world, which Hashem tells us in His Torah, are to'evat Hashem. Things which happen in Hashem's world, which are an abomination of Hashem. And we see these things. There are many things, not a huge amount of things, actually, but there are a select, that's the word I was thinking of, there are a select amount of things in the Torah which are called to'evat Hashem, one of which is idolatry. Idolatry can take many forms. It doesn't have a classic form in our day, really. Maybe in India, maybe for the Buddhists. But amongst Klal Yisrael, is there a wholesale idol worship going on within the Jewish people? Virtually unheard of. Only the mistaken Israelis who go and spend times in their time in the ashram. Again, that's also, as I believe, it's relatively minor, as opposed to what used to happen in the 60s and 70s and all this. So the Avodah Zarah in our days is not literal idol worship. There's different types of Avodah Zarah. There's Avodah Zarah of the gods of gold and silver, not statues of gold and silver. There's a different God. Different gods of gold and silver. The gods of gold and silver I'm talking about is the God of money. The way we put money before everything else, before our friends, before our families, and even before ourselves. I'm going to mention this a little bit later in the shiur. But there are certain things that Hashem says, these are things that I find unacceptable, I find them abominable. When a Jew knows that there is something which is to'evat Hashem, a Jew has to rise up and fight against it. Not just in thought, but in a person's deeds as well. A person should at least protest in no uncertain terms against the desecration of Hashem's name. Because Hashem's name is constantly being separated, if you can imagine such a thing. The letters of Hashem's name, Yud K and the Vav K, are being pushed aside and separated by the wickedness of Amalek. Now, we don't know who Amalek are in our generation. We have no idea who they are. We could say they were the Nazis or whoever. We can point the finger, but we don't know. We can't turn around and point to someone and say, you know what? This person is Zerah Amalek. He's from the tribe of Amalek. We can't tell. But we know that the Shittot, we know that their idealism their theology is definitely in this world. It's rampant in this world. All the atheism, all the, we see these posters on the buses saying, I can't remember the exact wording. They're saying that they basically denying God and saying, don't believe in God. You see them? You see them quite often. You see them here, you see them in America, you see them all over the world. We never thought that we could turn around and find some value to world religions like Christianity and Islam until we saw the atheism. Because like the Rambam says, those two religions I mentioned, Christianity and Islam, are a stepping stone away from paganism, away from atheism. Because these two religions, at least they believe that there's a God. Their vision of God may be warped. They may believe He's not one. We believe He's one. Christianity believe He's split into three parts. But at least they have some sort of perspective, some sort of way of identifying that there's a creator in this world. Okay, so they think he's part man. No, we'll have to work. We'll have to start teaching them. Ultimately, not now. When the time is good and ready, when Eliyahu Navi comes to herald Mashiach, then everything will be very apparent. But at least it's a vast step away from paganism and atheism and going out and in a militant fashion denying Hashem. That is To'evat Hashem. How can you get worse? Idolatry, paganism. There are terrible things that make Hashem's name separate, that makes Hashem's. I don't even want to bring the words out of my mouth. It's so terrible. So we should object against this. We should. What's the word I'm thinking of? We should rally against this. We should protest. Thank you very much. We should protest against this. Thank you, Toby. It's a thing that no Jew should stand for. How do we do this? Don't take it off your own back and start making, sandwich boards and standing up in Hyde Park. That might be not necessarily the best use of your time. But there are other ways we can object this. We can even object it from the other way, by promoting Hashem's name. But you can see here that as soon as the Jewish people heard from Moshe Rabbeinu that this was a war of Hashem, to protect Hashem's name and to protect Hashem's honor, they didn't even bat an eyelid. Straight away they went into war. Hashem's honor is at stake. We don't need to be told a second time. When a Jew knows that Hashem's honor is at stake, he shouldn't wait to be told a second time. He should rise up like he's been told from Moshe Rabbeinu and go and do the job at hand. Each person knows in one way or another what I'm referring to. And if you don't know, go and consult your Rav or your Posek. Will tell you in no uncertain terms how to preserve Hashem's dignity in this world. Later on in the parasha, we have the incident with the 2.5 tribes who came to Moshe Rabbeinu with a request. There were 2.5 tribes. One was Reuven, one was Gad, and the one which isn't mentioned here is Menashe. Half of the tribe of Menashe, they came together in a sort of union. They came to Moshe Rabbeinu and they said, Moshe, we have a request. We don't want to enter Eretz Yisrael immediately. We want to stay outside in Ever HaYarden, in the Transjordan, because we have a different tafkid from the other Shvatim. We have a different purpose. Because we are farmers, we are shepherds, so we have animals, and we would like to make enclosures for our animals in a place where we know they can pasture. Now, as soon as Moshe Rabbeinu heard that, whew, did he give it to them good and proper. I can't tell you exactly how many Pesukim, I haven't counted. There's a number of Pesukim following this request where Moshe Rabbeinu comes down very hard on them. And he says to them, where is it? Yeah, it starts from Pasuk Vav. He says, Moshe livnei Gad v'livnei Ruven ha'achechem yavolu milchala v'atem teshu po. He said, are you like conscientious objectors? You no pacifists. You don't want to go to war. Didn't you hear? We just said there's going to be a war. Everyone else is putting on their weapons. They're getting ready to fight. And you want to stay here and play with your animals and start making enclosures for your animals and start farming while everyone else is putting their lives on the line. So what are you doing? He carries on, Velama, and he What is all this about? Why this huge... First of all, why the request in the first place? And then you see at the end of this rebuke from Moshe Rabbeinu, he says something interesting. He tells them, because they ask him, we want to make enclosures for our animals, and then we want also enclosures for our children. We need to make ganot, gan yiladim. We have to, look after our young children, make sure they have kindergarten and nursery, etc., etc. So at the end of Moshe Rabbeinu's rebuke, he said to them, fine. So you can have a place for your children and a place for your animals. But make sure you stick to your word. You said that's the reason you want to be here. I'm going to take you at your word. Just make sure you practice what you preach. And that seems to be the end of the incident. So, one question which should be on your lips right now. These 2.5 tribes came and said, we need a place for our animals and also we need to look after the children. So Moshe Rabbeinu, when he gave them the answer, he seemed to say, okay, you build the place for your children and your animals and keep to your word. Question number 1, we see Moshe Rabbeinu reverse the order. He said, first of all, make a place for your children and then make a place for your animals. And then afterwards he tagged on this thing about keep to your word. Why was he so emphatic? Straight away he answered them, you have to keep to your word. So the answer to the first question, you can see it's a little bit obvious. Because they prioritized in the wrong way. They came out and they said, look, the reason why we're here is for our animals, it would seem first and foremost, and then for our children. Moshe Rabbeinu said, you're coming to me and you say you want to put your animals before your children's welfare? He said, no. First you put the children first, you look after them, you sort them out, then you worry about your animals. Don't come and say, we're worried, we've got a parnassah, we're shepherds and we're farmers, and we've got to, make all these barns and enclosures, and once we get ourselves sorted out, then we'll make the kindergarten and the nursery and all the, the slides and the swings and all the lines. Moshe Rabbeinu said, that's not the way to do things. You're putting your parnassah before your children. Switch it round. First look after the children. First make sure they're settled. Make them your priority, and then afterwards worry about the animals. The animals really they were referring to their parnassah. Now you could turn around and say, what type of people are they? Which type of people, which type of responsible parents would come and start fussing about their animals, and the children are left high and dry? The children are left to fend for themselves. But it's not really so far-fetched. Because as we mentioned in many, many previous shiurim, it happens all too often that parents sometimes, I hope unwittingly, are prioritizing their own lives, their own parnassah, their own living before their children. You know that story that I always quote from Rav Pesach Kron? That he said there was a child who came to their father on the child's birthday, and the child said, and the father said to the child, "My child, what do you want for your birthday?" And the child looks up to the father and she said, "I want a conversation. I want a conversation with you. Because I see you so busy with your business, you're so busy on your phone, you're so busy on your computer, I never get a chance to spend any quality time with you." Can you imagine a child would think of such a thing? Imagine how crestfallen the parent would have been hearing this from the child. But it really isn't so far-fetched. It really is not so far-fetched. There are many, many stories we could tell. Time is limited now. I can't. We all know these stories. Because the ta'avah for money, the lust for money, is greater, says the Gemara, than any other ta'avah that ever exists. Any ta'avah. Because money, the ta'avah for money, the ta'avah for materialism, the ta'avah to earn more and get more and more and more, is insatiable. Every other ta'avah, you get to a level where I've finished with my ta'avah for this, at least temporarily. How much can you eat? How much can you watch TV or watch the internet? Even sitting on the internet has a gavul, has a boundary. You can't sit on the internet for 24 hours a day, although I'm sure some people have tried. You have to sleep sometime. Although I know people have really pushed the boundaries. The first thing they get up in the morning, straight away they log in and they're watching, and if these people are not working, they're on it the whole time, goggle-eyed, and they're on it, apart from maybe stopping to eat something, until their eyes can't take it, their eyes are drooping and they fall asleep. And when they wake up, again. So these people would be on it 24 hours a day if they could. But they have to sleep. What can they do? They have to sleep. So you can see certain things which we call ta'avot have their limits. But the ta'avah for money does not have a limit. Because a person, says the Gemara, yesh mea rotze matayim. Yesh mea rotze matayim. One who has 100 wants 200. And if a person wants 200, he has 200, he wants 400. And it goes like that, it goes exponentially. You always want double, I want more. We see it so often. So this ta'avah of money, of materialism, can get so rife that we can even put it before our own children, for our own spouses, for heaven's sake. Such a terrible thing. And it has many, many different manifestations. A person should look into himself and realize, am I affected by this? Do I put that extra business deal before going out on my wife and myself's anniversary? You know, it happens once a year, and something comes up, and it means you're going to earn a lot of money. Now, I think most of the time your wife will say, go get the money, we'll celebrate another night. But not all wives are like that. Some of them, they want you to take them out on the day of their anniversary. This is a very special day. This is the day that we started the Beit Ne'eman. So we need to celebrate this day. So don't put other things before her. Why should you? Why should you put money before your wife? You're telling her, I love you, but I love money more. I really love you, but the money comes before you. You don't mind, do you? You think she's going to say, yeah, that's fine, don't worry. Go earn the money. Even if she says to you that she doesn't mind, trust me, she's paying you lip service. She doesn't mean it. And even if she thinks she doesn't mean it, so even if she thinks she does mean it, really she doesn't mean it. Really she needs to be put before everything. No wife deserves to be second best. No matter what you think of her, she never deserves to be second best. So why should we do it? Why should we put the tava for money in front of anything? We should be aware of how rife it can get, how out of control it can get, and at least try and control it. Put it into perspective. A person doesn't need to have millions of millions of millions of millions to exist. You know what they say? It's an interesting thing, and it's so true. A person gets married, he has children, the children grow old, and then, as happens most of the time, the husband dies before the wife. Now what's going to happen to all that money that he saved and he put for his wife? You know where it's going to go? It's going to go to her second husband. Because she doesn't want to be by herself. She's going to get married again. Not all the time, but there's a jolly good chance she's going to get married again. And then all the money goes to the second husband. You think you're earning it for yourself, you're looking after them. No, it's going to go to some stranger. And you can have a mitigating answer and say, oh, at least he's going to take care of her, and fine, whatever. Okay, but does he need millions? Does he need thousands and thousands? You worry about what you need to get by. You worry about making the money to make sure your family is secure, not money that's going to be, that's going to be squandered, or it's going to go to other people, or going to go to the tax man. Because believe me, after 120 years, a person's going to be very sorry that he never spent that quality time with his family. That all that money that he earned is all going to the wrong places. And all the time which is irreplaceable, that time's going to be squandered. Rahman al-Islam. I'm way off the topic now. Okay, so let's keep a bit of order here. So the other point which I was going to say, why did Moshe Rabbeinu tell them to keep their word? And that has a very simple answer. Because a person who's going to put money before his own family, that person cannot be trusted. That person needs to be ensured that he's got to keep his word. That person needs to be scolded and told that you've got to keep to what you say. Because if you're going to put money before your family and you've got all your priorities mixed up, then we need to get you to make that promise and to ensure that what you say is really what you mean. Okay. Now, before we leave with a very bad impression of Reuven and Gad and half of Manasseh, to think that they put everything, let's say something on a positive note about these 2.5 tribes. And I tell you by way of a story. There was a great Rav who lived maybe 250, 300 years ago. Could I be wrong? Maybe about 200 years ago. His name was the Chidushei Harim. He was the Gera Rebbe. I think he was the first Gera Rebbe, if I'm not mistaken, the Chidushei Harim. And after him, who took over from his mantle? Not his son, but his grandson. His grandson was called the Sfat Emet. The Sfat Emes. Now what happened to the Sfat Emet? Why did he take over and not his own father take over? The answer is because his father, the Sfat Emet's father, died when the Sfat Emet was very young. So the leadership went from grandfather to the grandson. So in other words, the father was out of the picture, so the Sfat Emet was brought up by the Chidushei Harim, his own grandfather. So they had a very close relationship, like father and son. Now, the Sfat Emet was an Ilui. He was a genius, and he was a matmid. He was a very strong learner. He would learn every minute of the day. And it happened that when he was a young man, he was learning with his chavruta all night. He didn't put his head on the pillow. Nowadays we can't really, Lahavdil elef avdilot. For the computer we can say stay up all night. For the Torah, we can't imagine people staying up all night. There are people who do it, but not enough. Anyway, so he stayed up all night with his chavruta, learning. And it came to the time when it was approaching Shacharit. And it was the time was getting closer, when he was learning with his chavruta, his head fell on the Gemara. He just couldn't take it. He tried so much, and he fell asleep, maybe for, let's say, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And then when he got up, he saw, oi, quick, I have to get to shul for Shacharit. Quickly he ran, he went to the Beit HaMedrash, and he walked in late. Now, of course, his grandfather, the Chidush Arim, who was the rabbi of the shul, is watching. He sees his grandson walking and sauntering into shul late and taking a seat. So now, after the tefillah, the grandfather went up to his grandson. He said, "Mein Kind," he said, my child, you think you have the right to come to shul late? He says, not right for any Jew to come to the Bet Knesset late. But you are a different case. You are the grandson of the rabbi of the shul. You are going to take over from me when I pass away. You are viewed in a different way, even more stringent than the regular Jew. If you come late to shul, what does everybody else think? Look, and the Rebbe's grandson comes to shul late. I can also come to shul late. You're setting an example. So how could you do such a thing? You've got no excuse. Now the Sfat Emet sat there, he put his head down, and he didn't answer back. Not one word. But Zaidi, nothing. And after the Rebbe had finished, his grandfather had finished, he accepted it and he went away. Now his chavruta happened to be there. And the chavruta said to the Sfat Emet, he said, why did you take this? Why didn't you answer your grandfather back? Why didn't you tell him you were learning all night? It's not your fault you fell asleep. You should tell him, Zaidi, I'm really sorry. I know you're right. I should have come to you, but I was learning all night. I couldn't help it. I didn't want to fall asleep. You know what the Sfat Emet answered? He said, I'll tell you why I didn't answer back. And the proof he gave his chavruta was from this week's parasha. He said, look at the story of the 2.5 tribes. They came with a request to Moshe Rabbeinu. We want to stay outside. We've got animals and children, whatever. Moshe Rabbeinu said, what? Everyone else is going to fight and you're going to stay behind? And Moshe Rabbeinu, as we said, he gave them tochacha, very stark tochacha. And at the end of it, they said to Moshe Rabbeinu, we do want to take part in the war effort. We don't want to stay behind and not take part in the war. We will take part in the war effort. Did they interrupt Moshe Rabbeinu? Did they say, but Moshe, stop! You can stop there. Of course we want to fight. We're not pacifists. We don't want to stay behind the lines. Of course we want to stop telling us off. It's not right. They didn't say anything. Why did they take all the criticism? The answer that the Sfat Emet gave was the answer that Moshe had, and it was the answer that Sfat Emet had himself. He said the reason why the 2.5 tribes never said anything is because it is a great thing to get rebuke from a tzaddik, from one of the Gedolei Olam. To hear rebuke, to be censured by an Adam Gadol is a great thing. It is an opportunity not to be wasted. You could turn around and say, but you're wrong, I'm right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're 100% right. You have a great man, he's giving you a rebuke, you listen to it, and you hear it, and you see how it applies to you. And that's what the Sfat Emet said. He said, my grandfather is a Chudush Harim. He's the Gadol Ador. It is a privilege to be rebuked by him. It is a zechut to have him come and tell me off, and to hear his holy words. I should interrupt him. I should give him excuses. I should fob him off. And that's why he took it. He put his own kavod completely aside. What a great lesson this is. Now, it's a very difficult thing to inculcate, because most times when a person hears rebuke, whether they're a child or whether they're an adult, it's very difficult to take it. A person always, at least subconsciously, he'll get on the defensive. It's very hard. But it's certainly something to aspire to. If you hear your father telling you off, or your Rebbe telling you off, it might be worth at least hearing them out, hearing what they have to say. Even if afterwards you would like to say something in your defense, but at least give them the right of hearing, the right of the right of way, and then afterwards you can reply. At least hear what they've got to say. At least put their kavod before your kavod. So this was a shevach, this was a praise for the tribes who did not want to interrupt Moshe Rabbeinu. They wanted to hear what he had to say. They put their heads down. Now I'm going to finish now with the closing portion of Parashat Matot, which in fact ends the whole Sefer of Bamidbar. What is the thing that ends this book of Bamidbar? The thing that ends this Parasha, and indeed the Sefer, is the Parasha about the Arei Miklat, the cities of refuge. And we all know what the cities of refuge are, but just for the benefit I'll give you a very short summary. If a person, Rahman al-Islam, would kill somebody inadvertently, how can you kill somebody inadvertently? If you're chopping with an axe and the blade flies off and it kills somebody, or if you're walking somewhere and you fall down and somebody's beneath you. Think there are cases like this. You could turn around and say, that's not inadvertent, you don't have any responsibility there. But there are many, many answers to this, because you should have taken more precaution. If you're hammering and the axe blade flies off and hits somebody, then you should have had an axe that's more sturdy. Why are you using an axe that's dangerous? And there are many, many cases like this where the culpability is not intentional, but you can't go off scot-free. It's not something like accidental. It is inadvertent. It's different. It's between the two. So a person who killed somebody else like this has to go to the cities of refuge, where they are given, for want of a better word, safe haven from the Goel Hadam. Who is the Goel Hadam? The Goel Hadam, it literally means the redeemer of the blood. It refers to the family members of the murder victim. So if the inadvertent murderer is running away to the city of refuge, it's because he's being pursued by the family of the murder victim that he killed, because they want to take their revenge. So he runs away. Once he's inside the environs, the gvul of the city of refuge, that's his safe haven. Now the person running after him, the family member wants to take revenge, can no longer take his revenge. He has to wait outside the city of refuge, and the person is inside. That's where he stays. Now, how long does this inadvertent murderer stay inside the city of refuge? Is it forever? Does it have a limit? It does have a limit. It's a very strange limit, because the inadvertent killer gets released no matter what the crime, no matter what type of inadvertent killing that he did, or no matter how long he's been in there. he gets released when the Kohen Gadol dies. Why is that? And I'll tell you another story which will explain to you one answer why the release of the killer is dependent on the death of the Kohen Gadol. There's a story told about Rav Chaim Kanievsky. He should live and be well, he should have a for shalema. Rav Chaim Kanievsky, who is one of the Gedolei Hador, son of the Steipler Rebbe, was once at home and he had a person come to visit him with she'elot, with questions. Now you know, when you get time with Rav Chaim Kanievsky and you have questions, you want to make sure you're all prepared, you have all your questions set out in front of you. Then it happened that this fellow was asking question after question after question to Rav Chaim. And Rav Chaim was giving him answers and advice as only a Gadol Hador would know. And however many answers Rav Chaim was giving, the young man was giving more and more questions. So then the young man noted that Rav Chaim was putting on a kapota, was putting on like one of his coats, and he was putting on a tie, and he was saying, you know, I have to go somewhere. You can still ask me the questions. If you don't mind, I'm just getting dressed, getting changed. Find that the person keeps asking questions, more and more questions. And he said, okay, I have to go now, but you're more than welcome to walk with me and ask me your questions while I'm on my way. Fine, so the fellow agreed. Rav Chaim walks out of his house, carries on walking, and the fellow is asking and listening to the answers, and asking and listening. And Rav Chaim is talking and talking. And they see, and the young man sees that Rav Chaim is walking towards an ulam, a hall. And as they get into the hall, the young man sees it's a wedding hall. There's a chatunah about to take place. And he sees that Rav Chaim goes, he walks up to a table, and at that table there's all the Gedolei Hador, and Rav Chaim is still talking to him, and he's asking the fellow, come, okay, and he's still giving him the answers, and the fellow keeps asking more and more questions. And now Rav Chaim, it comes time for him to stand up and walk away. And Rav Chaim turns around to this fellow after hearing many of his questions. He said to him, excuse me, I'm going to have to go now, but if you wait, I will continue answering your questions after I've finished. And Rav Chaim gets up and he walks towards the Chatan, and he puts his arm under the Chatan, and he walks this Chatan to the chuppah. Who was that Chatan? It was Rav Chaim Kanievsky's son. Rav Chaim Kanievsky was walking towards his own son's wedding. Can you imagine such a thing? Now, I haven't made a wedding yet. Bezrat Hashem, I should make for all my children. But I can imagine how busy I would be if I was making my own child's chuppah. You think I'd have time to answer she'elot? If I could answer she'elot, that is. You think I'd have time to fuss with other things? Not Rav Chaim Kanievsky. All he did was put on his kapota, put on his hat, walk out the door. And he's still giving etzot, still giving advice. You see what our Gedolei Hador are? They put practically everything out of the way, all their personal concerns, even the happiest day of their son's life, they put it aside because of tzorchei tzibur, because of the needs of the community. That comes as priority. That's why he's Rav Chaim Kanievsky. That's why he's a Gedolei Hador. Not because he told the person, I haven't got time now, come back to me in 3 weeks' time, or come back to me after the Sheva Brachot. No. He even said to him, just wait while I walk my son to the chuppah, and then I carry on. He didn't even stop it there. He was willing to carry on even his own son's wedding. This is why the Kohen Gadol has to die for the killers to be released. What has it got to do with the Kohen Gadol, whether these people are released from the cities of refuge or not? The answer is, the Kohen Gadol had a big part to play in why that fellow or the people were there in the cities of refuge in the first place, or why they were there for so long. Why is that? Because there's a reason why those people are there. Not just because they killed somebody through negligence. Because the Kohen Gadol was in a very important position. He's the only one who goes lifnayu lifnim, into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, into the Holy of Holies, on the holiest day of the year. For that one solitary moment, he goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim and he prays for Klal Yisrael. He prays for them, all of them, for that entire year. Why did he not pray for these killers? Why didn't he pray, Ribono Shel Olam, don't let there be any accidental deaths. Ribono Shel Olam, look after them. Don't let them have to be chased by the family members of the murder victims. Help them. Hashem, save them. Don't let them even get into that position. Because the Gedolei Hador, as symbolized by the Kohen Gadol, are ultimately responsible for the entire Klal Yisrael. The reason why things happen the way they happen is because, well, I won't say it's because, is the responsibility of the Gedolei Hador. And in this example, of the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol has to have the blame on his shoulders. It might seem harsh, but the Kohen Gadol is a Kohen Gadol for a reason. He's in the ultimate position, at the optimal time, to play for Klal Yisrael. And when things don't happen like they should, the Kohen Gadol must take responsibility. And that is why, when he dies, then he takes as a kapara all of the people, all the people who were there, entrenched in the Arei Miklat, and they all go free. He holds the culpability. He holds the responsibility. Now there is a way that this could all turn out really, really badly. Because we've just explained now the power of prayer. Prayer could have averted this whole situation in the first place. The prayer of the Kohen Gadol could have averted this. So now, what's to stop the killers within those Arei Miklat, within those cities of refuge? What's to stop them praying to Hashem, please Hashem, let the Kohen Gadol die today so that we can go. That's the best way to escape. Pray to Hashem with all your hearts that the Kohen Gadol should die. So what happens as a preventive measure? The mother of the Kohen Gadol will give food and clothing to these inadvertent killers. Ostensibly, it would seem that she's giving them things, and because she's endearing herself, and indeed her son, to these killers, it will be a preventative measure to prevent them from praying that the Kohen Gadol should die. They should see, look, the Kohen Gadol, he's not so bad, because look at his mother. She's so nice to us, But there's a deeper answer. There's a deeper answer. There's a deeper message that will prevent these inadvertent killers from praying that the Kohen Gadol should die. The answer is, it's not necessarily that presents and clothing, whatever, are given so that these people will stop praying so the Kohen Gadol should die. It's more that they're given a life lesson. These killers, at the end of the day, they're ordinary people, but they've been incarcerated. And what do they have to look up to? They have to look up to the mother of the Kohen Gadol, who we see goes to great lengths to ensure that her son's death is not, he doesn't predecease himself. He doesn't die earlier than he should. By the way, you can see what the power of prayer is. The power of prayer can even potentially cause a Kohen Gadol to die before his time. But all these killers can look and they can see, you see what incredible love a mother has for her son. That she goes, she makes clothing, she feeds all these people here. That's all she does. She does it all day, every day. So much so because she's got such incredible love for her son. Now what do these people do when they see this played out in front of them all day, every day? They see, you know what? It's just occurred to me now actually. You know what we're looking at? We're looking at the value of human life. We, the killers, we took human life for granted. We didn't take the proper precautions when we bought our axes. When we were chopping the wood, we didn't have the proper safety regulations. We used tools that were not good enough. And because of that, the handle flew off and somebody got killed. We didn't have health and safety checks in the building sites. So when we walked along, we fell down and somebody underneath us was killed by our fall. So we did not value human life. Now what do we see? We see the mother of the Kohen Gadol fussing every day, doing and doing more and more and more, because she loves her son, because she doesn't want her son to die because of our prayers. What a life lesson that is, to show the value of human life first hand. They're seeing it every day first hand. Now that lesson, these people will never forget that lesson. They'll leave the Arei Miklat only after they've learned the value and the import of human life. And never would they get such a lesson other than in the Arei Miklat. I'm going to finish with one story which talks about priorities. The story is told of the Tolus Aaron, the Rebbe from the Tolus Aaron. It was a Hasidic Rebbe. He once had a Talmid come to him. And when this Talmid came to him, there happened to be on the table a bowl full of beautiful, delicious apples. And as the Rebbe is talking to his Talmid, he sees his Talmid is looking at the apple and he's really wants to have one of these apples. The Rebbe says, why don't you take an apple? So the Talmid is a little bit nervous. He takes the apple and he's looking at the apple and he's savouring the moment. He's got an apple from the Rebbe. So now takes the apple and slowly, with great kavanah, Baruch Atah Hashem, and he makes a bracha slowly with kavanah. He eats the apple. Geschmack, beautiful, delicious apple. So the Rebbe looked at the fellow. He says, I'm very impressed. I see you had a lot of kavanah. But let me show you a higher madrega. Let me show you a higher level. So you had an appetite, and you needed to fill your appetite. So what do? You're looking around and you see, there's an apple there. How can I fill my appetite? I eat the apple. I can't eat the apple without making a bracha, chas v'shalom. So I make the bracha to facilitate me eating the apple. So you want to know the real way of doing things? The way that a tzaddik would do things? A tzaddik would look around and he'd have a desire to make a bracha. I want to make a bracha. And he looks around and he says, I can't make the bracha on nothing. So So he looks around and sees if he can find, oh, there's an apple. Now I can make a bracha. He takes the apple, bracha to Hashem. There's a very deep lesson in this. Does a person go through life and sees all types of things that he needs and he wants, and he says, I want this thing, but I can't do it, I have to do it in the correct way? Or does he look for an excuse to serve Hashem? He wants to put a mezuzah on his front door. Ribbon Shalom, I want to do the mitzvah mezuzah. I don't have a house. Please Hashem, help me find a house. Not because I want to be more comfortable to have my own house, because I want to put a mezuzah. I once had a beautiful segula for getting married. A person, he wants to get married, he should buy the glass that he's going to step on under the chuppah, and he should put it on his mantelpiece and say, Ribbon Shalom, I want to be makayim the mitzvah of clopping this glass. I want to break this glass. I can't break the glass without a kala. So Hashem, please help me find my kala. Does the desire for the mitzvah come first? What is your priority? That's what it is. That's what the Torah and Rebbe is trying to teach us. Your priority must be to do the mitzvah first. To find the heichi timtzah, to find the method for the mitzvah, that's got to be secondary. Your first machshava should be the mitzvah. I want to do a mitzvah. How can I do a mitzvah? I can't do a mitzvah without a heichi timtzah. Heichi timtzah means like a method. I can't do it by itself. I can't do a mitzvah from air. So the desire for the mitzvah should be so acute within us that only secondary should come the heichi timtzah. Only secondary should come the method of performing the mitzvah. Not the method comes first and then, we do a mitzvah so we can get what we want. Yehi Ratzon should be the will of Hashem, that all of us should have such a strong chalashing, a strong desire to do the mitzvah, that Hashem provide each and every one of us with the way to perform the mitzvah, and the way to bond together as Klal Yisrael. And this way, we will take that step forward and forward and forward till we ultimately find ourselves within the Geula Shalema.